The giant crystal building stretched up into the purple sky of Viridian Prime. Inside its walls, the most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered for an emergency meeting. The Galactic Council had ruled over thousands of worlds for more than 1,000 years. Today, they had a problem to solve. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked through the tall doors with 3 other humans behind her. Their footsteps echoed in the huge room. Above them, light bounced off crystal walls in rainbow colors. Around them, alien beings filled seats that rose up like a mountain. Elena had never seen so many different life forms in one place. The Zephyrians looked like angels, with clear wings that caught the light. They whispered to each other in voices that sounded like music. The Kron were made of living rock and metal. When they spoke, the floor shook under Elena's feet. The Etherians had no real bodies at all. They floated like bright clouds of energy. High Chancellor Vextar sat on the highest seat. His 6 arms moved as he sorted through papers. His 3 eyes looked down at the small human group. He was from the hegemony, the species that had started the council long ago. "The council will come to order," Vextar said. His voice was deep and strong. "We gather today to discuss the human problem." Elena felt her heart beat faster. The human problem. That was what they called her people, now. A Sonari representative stood up. The bird-like being's feathers were bright blue and gold. "Humans have broken the colonization laws," she sang in her musical voice. "They have built cities on 12 worlds without permission. They refuse to follow mining consortium rules." Quote. The arachnid collective speaker clicked his mandibles together. His 8 legs tapped on the floor as he spoke. "Humans trade outside the approved routes. They ignore our authority. This cannot continue." Aldi. Elena listened carefully. They were not telling the whole truth. Yes, humans had built colonies on empty worlds. Yes, they had found new ways to travel between stars. But they had not attacked anyone. They had not stolen anything. They had simply refused to ask permission for everything they did. The real problem was different. 3 months ago, human scientists had discovered how to travel faster than light in a new way. It was better than anything the council species could do. It meant humans could reach distant stars in days instead of months. The council was afraid. "Humans are young and do not understand proper behavior," said a void swimmer. The whale-like being's words came through a water tank. "They need guidance. They need control." One by one, the council members spoke. They all said the same thing in different ways. Humans were dangerous. Humans were wild. Humans needed to be managed by wiser species. Elena's aide leaned close to her ear. "They really believe they are better than us," he whispered. Elena nodded but said nothing. She had studied these species for years before coming here. The hegemony had conquered dozens of worlds before forming the council. The Etherians had destroyed 3 star systems in ancient wars. The Kron had enslaved entire populations for mining operations. But somehow, humans were the dangerous ones. Chancellor Vextar raised one of his arms for silence. "The council has prepared terms for humanity," he said. "These terms are generous and fair." He touched a control, and words appeared in the air above the chamber. Elena read them with growing anger. Humanity would become a protectorate of the council. Human worlds would have council governors. Human technology would be shared with all council members. Human ships could only travel on approved routes. Human colonies would be inspected and approved by council experts. "These terms will bring peace and order," Vextar continued. "Humanity will benefit from our wisdom and experience." The chamber filled with sounds that Elena's translator said were laughter. The Sonari trilled like birds. The arachnids clicked rapidly. Even the serious crone made rumbling sounds of amusement. Elena understood why they were laughing. They had done this before. When the Deltans had tried to expand too fast, the council had offered similar terms. When the Rigelians had refused to share their mining technology, they had been given the same choice: submit or be destroyed. But those species had been alone. They had no allies and few resources. Humanity was different. though the council did not seem to understand this yet. Ambassador Vasquez, Chancellor Vextar said, "What is humanity's response to these generous terms?" Elena stood up slowly. Around her, thousands of alien eyes watched. Media cameras from across the galaxy focused on her. This moment would be remembered forever. "The United Earth government requests time to consider these terms," she said calmly. More laughter filled the chamber. Of course the humans needed time. They needed to accept the impossible situation. They needed to realize they had no choice. "Very well," Vextar said. He sounded pleased. "The Council grants humanity one standard day to provide an answer." Elena bowed slightly. "Thank you, Chancellor." She turned and walked toward the exit. Her team followed behind her. As they left the chamber, she could hear the alien voices continuing to discuss the human problem. They were already planning how to divide human technology and resources. Elena smiled for the first time that day. They had no idea what was coming. Outside the crystal building, Elena looked up at the purple sky. Ships from dozens of worlds moved between the clouds. This was the heart of galactic civilization. It was beautiful and impressive and very, very old. Tomorrow, everything would change. Her aide caught up with her. "What do we do now?" he asked. Elena pulled out her communication device. It was time to send a message to Earth. A very short message. "We go home," she said. "And then we show them what humans do when someone tries to put us in a cage." The purple sun of Viridian Prime was setting. Soon, it would be dark. And in that darkness, humanity would make a choice that would shake the galaxy. The Council thought they knew how this story would end. They were wrong. The next morning came too soon for Elena Vasquez. She had spent the night in the human embassy, talking with Earth through their quantum communication link. The conversation had been short and clear. Earth's leaders had made their decision months ago. They were just waiting for the right moment. Elena walked back into the crystal chamber with the same 3 humans beside her. This time, the galleries were full. Representatives from minor species filled every seat. They wanted to see the humans surrender. Then, they wanted to see. It was always entertaining when a new species learned their place in the galactic order. Chancellor Vextar looked down at her with satisfaction. His 3 eyes gleamed in the crystal light. Around him, the major council members waited, like judges at a trial. "Ambassador Vasquez," he said in his deep voice, "has humanity reached a decision?" Elena nodded. "We have, Chancellor." "Excellent. Please share your acceptance of our terms with the Council." Elena almost smiled. Acceptance. He did not even consider that humans might say no. Nobody said no to the Galactic Council. It simply was not done. A Sonari representative stood up. Her golden feathers caught the light as she spoke. "Before we hear the human response, the Council wishes to explain why these terms are necessary." Elena waited. She had expected this. The bird-like being's voice was like singing. "Humans are children in the galaxy. You have only been in space for 200 of your years. We have been traveling between stars for thousands of years. We know what happens when young species expand too quickly." A Kron representative made the floor shake when he stood. His rock-like body was covered in metal plates. "Young species cause wars. They take resources that belong to others. They disrupt trade routes that have existed for centuries. The Council protects peace," added an Etherian, the floating energy being pulsed with different colors as it spoke. "We prevent conflicts before they start. We guide new species towards civilized behavior." One by one, they explained humanity's faults. Humans were too aggressive. Humans moved too fast. Humans did not respect the old ways. Humans needed to be controlled before they caused problems. Elena listened to it all. She had heard these arguments before, in the reports about other species. The Council always said the same things. They were protecting peace. They were maintaining order. They were helping young species grow up. What they really meant was simple. They were protecting their power. They were maintaining their control. They were making sure no one could challenge them. The void swimmer spoke from his water tank. His whale-like voice was deep and sad. The Deltans thought they could ignore our guidance. Their homeworld is now a wasteland. The Rigelians believed they could keep their secrets. They are now extinct. The threat was clear. Obey or die. Submit or be destroyed. It was the same choice they had given to dozens of species before. But we are not cruel, said Chancellor Vextar. We offer humanity a chance to join galactic civilization properly. Under our guidance, humans can learn to be good citizens of the galaxy. The chamber filled with those sounds, Elena's translator called laughter. The aliens found this very funny. Another proud species would learn to bow their heads. Another independent people would accept their chains. The arachnid collective representative clicked his mandibles together in amusement. Perhaps humans will even thank us one day. Many species have grown to appreciate our wisdom. The terms we offer are generous, continued a hegemony official. Humans will keep their homeworld. Human culture will be preserved. Human individuals will be allowed to travel and work throughout council space. Rounded. Markered. Rounded. Elena knew what he did not say. Human worlds would be ruled by alien governors. Human technology would belong to the council. Human ships would go only where they were allowed. Human children would learn that their species was inferior to their alien masters. It was not slavery, exactly. It was something worse. It was the slow death of human independence. It was the end of human dreams. Of course, there will be restrictions. The Chancellor continued. Humans will no longer be allowed to colonize new worlds without permission. Human military forces will be limited to internal security. Human technology development will be supervised by council experts. More laughter filled the chamber. The minor species in the galleries watched carefully. They had all accepted similar terms long ago. Now, they would see another proud species learn to submit. These restrictions are for the good of all, said the Sonari representative. Order brings peace. Peace brings prosperity. All species benefit when they follow council guidance. Elena wondered if the bird-like being actually believed that. The Sonari had been independent once. They had built beautiful cities among the clouds of their gas giant homeworld. Now those cities housed council administrators. The Sonari themselves worked as clerks and translators for their former enemies. We understand that these terms may seem harsh to human minds, said an Etherian. Young species often struggle with the concept of limits. But in time, humans will see the wisdom of our requirements. The energy being pulsed brighter. Consider the alternative. Humans continue their reckless expansion. They encounter hostile species beyond the rim. They start wars they cannot win. Millions die in conflicts that could have been prevented. It was a good argument, Elena admitted. There were dangerous species beyond the edge of council space. The galaxy was full of threats that a single species could not handle alone. But humans were not alone. The council just did not know that yet. The choice is simple, Chancellor Vextar said. His 6 arms gestured toward Elena. Accept our guidance and grow under our protection, or reject our wisdom and face the consequences alone. The chamber fell silent. Every alien eye focused on the small human woman standing at the speaking platform. This was the moment they had all come to see. This was where humanity would break, just as all the others had broken before them. Elena looked up at the thousands of faces around her. Some showed pity. Some showed satisfaction. A few showed genuine concern. But none showed respect. They all saw humans as children who needed to be controlled. She thought about Earth, blue and green and beautiful in space. She thought about the colonies humans had built with their own hands on distant worlds. She thought about human ships exploring unknown stars and human scientists making impossible discoveries. All of that would end if she said yes. Humanity would become just another subject species, grateful for whatever scraps their masters allowed them. Elena smiled. It was time to surprise them all. Thank you for explaining your position so clearly, she said. Her voice was calm and polite. The United Earth government has considered your terms very carefully. The chamber held its breath. This was it. This was the moment of surrender. We respectfully decline, Elena said. The silence in the crystal chamber was complete. Elena's words seemed to hang in the air like a physical thing. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Even the translation systems seemed confused. Chancellor Vextar's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. His mouth opened and closed several times before any sound came out. I apologize, Ambassador. There appears to be a translation error. Did you say decline? Yes, Chancellor. We decline your terms. Elena's voice was steady and calm. She might have been discussing the weather. A nervous laugh came from somewhere in the galleries, then another. The sound spread through the chamber like a wave, but it was different from before. This laughter was uncertain, worried. Perhaps you do not understand, said the Sonari representative. Her musical voice had a sharp edge now. These are not suggestions, human. These are requirements. The Council has decided. Elena nodded politely. We understand perfectly. You have made your requirements clear. We choose not to accept them. The Kron representative made the floor shake as he stood up. His rock face was twisted with anger. No species refuses the Council. It is not possible. Nevertheless, Elena said, we do refuse. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small data crystal. The chamber watched, as she placed it carefully on the speaking platform. The United Earth government withdraws its application for Council membership, she continued. We end all requests for trade agreements with Council species. We cancel all joint research projects and diplomatic exchanges. More silence. Elena could hear the hum of the crystal building's power systems. She could hear the breathing of 100 different alien species. She could hear her own heartbeat. Furthermore, she said, effective immediately, humanity ends all formal relations with the Galactic Council and its member species. Now the chamber exploded into noise. Alien voices rose in anger, confusion, and disbelief. Translation systems overloaded as dozens of species tried to speak at once. Impossible, shrieked the arachnid representative. You cannot simply leave. Order. Chancellor Vextar's voice boomed over the chaos. Order in this chamber. Slowly, the noise died down. Elena waited patiently for quiet. She had more to say. This withdrawal includes all human diplomatic personnel, she continued. Our ambassadors will return to Earth within 7 standard days. All human trade missions will end their operations and depart Council space. The Etherian energy being pulsed angry red colors. You cannot survive alone. No single species can exist without Council support. Elena smiled. It was the first emotion she had shown since entering the chamber. We are willing to find out. This is madness. The void swimmer's voice bubbled up from his water tank. Humans will be destroyed by the first hostile force they encounter. That is a risk we choose to take, Elena replied. Chancellor Vextar leaned forward in his seat. His 6 arms gripped the armrests until his knuckles turned white. Ambassador, I do not think you understand the situation. The Council's protection is not optional. Order must be maintained. We understand perfectly, Chancellor. We simply reject your version of order. Then you choose destruction. The Chancellor's voice was cold now. The Council has dealt with rebellious species before. It does not end well. Elena's smile grew wider. Is that a threat, Chancellor? Nervous sounds came from the galleries. The minor species representatives shifted in their seats. They all knew what happened to species that defied the Council. Some had experienced it themselves. It is a statement of fact, Vextar replied. The galaxy is dangerous for those without proper guidance. Then we will have to be very careful, Elena said. She turned to face the cameras that were broadcasting this meeting across the galaxy. Billions of beings on thousands of worlds were watching. This moment would be remembered forever. To the people of the galaxy, she said, humanity wishes you peace and prosperity. We hope that someday we might meet again as equals rather than as masters and subjects. She picked up the data crystal and put it back in her jacket. The crystal contains all the details of our withdrawal. Our ships will begin departing Council space within the hour. Elena turned toward the exit. Her 3 companions fell in behind her. They had practiced this moment many times. Wait. The Sonari representative's voice cracked with strain. You cannot just walk away. What about your colonies? What about your trade routes? What about the investments Council species have made in human worlds? Elena paused at the chamber entrance. She looked back over her shoulder. Our colonies will remain human. Our trade routes will serve human interests. As for Council investments in human worlds, she shrugged. You are welcome to try to collect them. More chaos erupted in the chamber. Alien voices rose in anger and disbelief. Some species had spent fortunes building facilities on human worlds. Others had signed contracts that would be worth billions of credits. Elena walked through the tall doors without looking back. Her team followed in perfect silence. Behind them, the most powerful beings in the galaxy shouted and argued like children who had lost a toy. Outside the crystal building, Elena looked up at the purple sky one last time. Human ships were already launching from the orbital stations. Transport vessels carried diplomats and trade representatives back toward Earth. Warships moved into protective formations. Her aide caught up with her as they reached their shuttle. Ma'am, are we really going to do this? Are we actually leaving? Elena nodded. We are going home, Lieutenant. But what about the consequences? The Council will not just let us go. Elena looked back at the crystal building. Through the transparent walls, she could see the chaos continuing in the chamber. Alien species that had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years were discovering that their authority had limits. Let me tell you something about consequences, she said. The Council thinks they hold all the cards. They think they control all the resources, all the technology, all the power. They think we need them more than they need us. She smiled again. It was not a nice smile. They are about to learn how wrong they are. The shuttle lifted off into the purple sky. Below them, the crystal city of Viridian Prime sparkled in the alien sunlight. It was also about to become much less important. Elena activated her communication system. It was time to send a message to every human world, every human ship, every human colony. The message was simple. Come home. Within hours, humanity would begin the largest withdrawal in galactic history. Ships would disappear from Council space. Trade would stop. Research projects would end. Colonies would declare independence. And in the crystal chamber of Viridian Prime, the most powerful beings in the galaxy would finally understand what they had lost. They had thought human submission was inevitable. They had thought human resources were theirs to claim. They had thought human independence was impossible. They had been wrong about everything. The shuttle jumped to hyperspace, carrying its human passengers away from the heart of galactic civilization. Behind them, the Council faced their first real crisis in 1,000 years. The age of human submission was over. The age of human independence had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months had passed since humanity walked out of the crystal chamber on Viridian Prime. At first, the Council had waited for the humans to come back. They always came back. Fear, economics, or simple survival would force them to return with apologies and acceptance. But the humans did not come back. Chancellor Vextar stood in his private office, looking out at the city below. The crystal spires still reached toward the purple sky. Ships still moved between the orbital stations. Everything looked normal. Everything was not normal. The economic reports, Chancellor. His aide placed a data tablet on the massive desk. The aide was a Deltans, one of the species that had submitted to Council authority decades ago. His gray skin was paler than usual. Vextar picked up the tablet and read. The numbers were worse than he had expected. Human trade had represented 30% of galactic commerce. Medical supplies from human pharmaceutical companies had kept 3 different species alive. Rare earth minerals from human mining operations had powered half the galaxy's technology. All of that was gone. The Etherian colonies are requesting emergency medical shipments, the aide reported. They relied on human-made medicines for their energy stabilization treatments. What about the Kron industrial complexes? Shutting down. The humans provided 70% of their raw materials. No other species can match their mining efficiency. Vextar set down the tablet. Temporary problems. We will find new suppliers. The aide hesitated. Sir, there is more. The humans have established what they call the Free Worlds Alliance. 17 minor species have withdrawn from the Council to join them. This was worse news. The Council's power came from the absolute loyalty of hundreds of member species. If that loyalty started to crack, everything could collapse. Which species? Vextar demanded. The Deltans were the first. The aide's voice was quiet. They said they were tired of being second-class citizens in their own galaxy. Vextar felt something cold in his chest. The Deltans had been perfect subjects for 40 years. They paid their taxes, followed council laws, and never caused trouble. If they could rebel, any species could rebel. The Andorians followed, the aide continued. Then the Centauri Coalition. The Rigelian survivors have also requested membership in the Human Alliance. Survivors? Vextar had forgotten about the Rigelians. They had been wiped out decades ago for refusing to share their technology. It seems some Rigelians escaped the destruction of their homeworld. They have been hiding in the Outer Rim. The humans found them and offered them sanctuary. Vextar's 3 eyes widened. If word spread that the Rigelians still existed, if other species learned that the Council had lied about their extinction, it could cause a revolution. What are the humans offering these species? Equal representation in their alliance, shared technology, protection from Council retaliation. The aide paused. And something else, sir. They are offering them respect. Respect. Vextar almost laughed. Respect was a luxury that subject species could not afford. Order required hierarchy. Peace required submission. The Council had learned this lesson over centuries of experience. And the Outer Rim colonies? All of them have declared independence from Council authority. They are using human faster-than-light technology to establish their own trade network. Our shipping companies cannot compete with their speed and efficiency. Vextar walked to the window. Below, the city hummed with activity. But he could see the empty spaces where human businesses used to operate. He could see the idle loading docks where human cargo ships used to dock. Have we tried negotiation? Yes, sir. We sent ambassadors to the human capital on New Geneva. They were received politely, but firmly. The humans are not interested in returning to Council space. What did they want? Nothing, sir. That is the problem. They want nothing from us. This was impossible. Every species wanted something. Power, resources, technology, protection. The Council's strength came from providing these things in exchange for loyalty. How could you control a species that needed nothing from you? The defense reports are also concerning, the aide continued. Human military technology has advanced rapidly. Their new ships are faster than anything in our fleets. Their weapons are more efficient. Their defensive systems are nearly impenetrable. Vextar turned from the window. Are they planning an attack? No, sir. Intelligence suggests they have no interest in conquest. They seem focused on exploration and expansion beyond the galactic rim. This made no sense. Advanced species always sought to dominate weaker ones. It was the natural order of things. Yet the humans were using their superior technology to explore empty space instead of conquering populated worlds. What about the other Council species? Are they concerned about the human withdrawal? The aide hesitated again. Some are beginning to question Council policies, sir. The Sonari have requested a review of trade regulations. The Void Swimmers are asking about reduced Council oversight of their colonies. Vextar felt the cold sensation spread through his body. The Council's authority was built on the assumption that no alternative existed. The humans had created an alternative. Worse, they had made it attractive to other species. And the minor species? They are watching carefully, sir. If the human alliance continues to succeed, if their member species prosper outside council control, others may follow. A communication alert chimed on Vexistar's desk. He activated the holographic display. The face of Admiral Corrin, the hegemony's military commander, appeared. Chancellor, we have a situation. Report, Admiral. 3 more systems have declared independence. They are requesting human protection from Council retaliation. Human warships are already moving to escort their civilian populations to Alliance territory. Vextar felt his legs weaken. He sat down heavily in his chair. How many systems have we lost total? 1. 26, sir, all of them in the outer rim. But the trend is spreading inward toward core systems. What do our military advisors recommend? Some suggest a show of force. A quick strike to demonstrate that independence has consequences. Admiral Corrin paused. Others point out that human military technology now surpasses our own. A conflict could result in significant council losses. The truth was becoming clear. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Council faced an enemy they could not simply overwhelm. The humans had superior technology, willing allies, and most dangerous of all, they had proven that Council authority was not absolute. Admiral, what is your professional assessment of our situation? Honestly, Chancellor, we are losing control. The humans have shown other species that independence is possible. They have offered those species something we never could. Genuine equality. If this continues, the Council may face complete collapse within 5 years. Vextar closed his eyes. 1,000 years of galactic order was crumbling. The careful balance of power that had prevented major wars was breaking down. The empire his ancestors had built was dying. Sir? The aide's voice was hesitant. There is one more thing. The humans have sent a message. Vextar opened his eyes. What kind of message? An invitation, sir. They are hosting a conference on neutral ground. They want to discuss what they call new frameworks for galactic cooperation. What do they want? Unknown, sir. But the invitation was sent to every species in the galaxy, including those still loyal to the Council. Vextar looked out at the Crystal City again. For 1,000 years, this had been the center of galactic civilization. Ambassadors had come here to beg for favors. Trade routes had been planned in these chambers. The fate of entire species had been decided in these buildings. Now the humans were offering an alternative. A galaxy without the Council at its center. A galaxy where species were equal instead of ranked. A galaxy where strength came from cooperation instead of domination. It was impossible. It was unprecedented. It was terrifying. It was also working. Shall I prepare a response to the human invitation? The aide asked. Vextar was quiet for a long time. Outside his window, an alien sunset painted the crystal buildings in shades of gold and red. It was beautiful. It was also ending. Yes, he said finally. Tell them we will attend their conference. What shall I say about our position? Vexistar thought about pride and power and the inevitable changes that time brought to all empires. The humans had offered them a choice. Adapt or become irrelevant. Tell them we are ready to listen. It was the first time in 1,000 years that the Galactic Council had asked to learn instead of demanding to teach. The age of Council dominance was ending. The age of human influence had begun. And in the crystal chambers of Viridian Prime, the most powerful beings in the galaxy finally began to understand what they had lost when they let humanity walk away. 1 year after humanity walked away from the Galactic Council, Chancellor Vextar found himself on a human ship for the first time in his life. The vessel was unlike anything in the Council fleets. It moved with impossible speed through space, its engines quiet and efficient. The corridors were wide and bright, designed for many different species to move comfortably together. He was not alone. Ambassadors from the 12 major Council species sat in the ship's conference room, all looking as uncomfortable as he felt. They were traveling to New Geneva, the capital world of the Free Worlds Alliance. They were going to beg. None of them would use that word, of course. They called it negotiation, diplomatic outreach, exploring new opportunities for cooperation. But Vextar knew the truth. The council was dying, and only the humans could save it. Through the ship's windows, he could see the New Geneva system approaching. 3 planets orbited a yellow sun, all of them green and blue with life. Massive space stations floated between the worlds, their designs mixing human engineering with the aesthetics of dozens of other species. "Impressive," said the Etherian ambassador, the energy being pulsed with colors that indicated grudging respect. "I did not expect such rapid development." "Humans work fast when they are motivated," replied the Kron representative. The rock being's voice held no humor. Ships from many different species moved through the system. Vextar recognized Delton's vessels, Andorian explorers, Centauri traders. All of them flew alongside human ships as equals. There were no council inspection stations, no regulation checkpoints, no signs of the careful control that had maintained order for 1,000 years. Yet everything seemed to function perfectly. The human captain's voice came over the communication system. "Honored guests, we will be docking at New Geneva Station in 15 minutes. Ambassador Vasquez is waiting to greet you. Elena Vasquez." The woman who had spoken 3 words that changed the galaxy. "We respectfully decline." Vextar wondered what she would say to them today. The docking process was smooth and efficient. Human engineers had clearly learned much from studying council technology, then improved upon it. As they walked through the station's corridors, Vextar noticed the subtle differences from council stations. No guards watched every doorway. No surveillance systems tracked every movement. No signs reminded visitors of their place in the hierarchy. People moved freely, spoke openly, and treated each other with easy familiarity. It should have been chaos. Instead, it was the most peaceful space station Vextar had ever visited. Ambassador Vasquez waited for them in a conference room that overlooked the planet below. She looked exactly the same as she had in the crystal chamber a year ago. But her confidence had grown. She moved like someone who no longer had to ask permission for anything. "Chancellor Vextar," she said, rising from her chair. "Honored ambassadors, welcome to New Geneva. I hope your journey was comfortable." "It was," Vextar replied carefully. "Your ships are very advanced. Thank you. We have learned much from our new friends." She gestured toward chairs around a circular table. "Please, sit. We have much to discuss." The council ambassadors took their seats. Vextar noticed that the table had no head position. Every chair was equal. It was a small thing, but it spoke volumes about human thinking. "Before we begin," Elena continued, "I want you to know that you are welcome here, as honored guests. Whatever our differences in the past, you represent ancient and proud civilizations. We respect that. Respect again. The word that the council had never learned to value properly. We appreciate your hospitality," said the Sonari ambassador. Her musical voice was more subdued than usual. "We come seeking to understand your new alliance." Elena nodded. "Of course." "How does it work?" The void swimmer's question bubbled up from his mobile water tank. "How do you maintain order without central authority?" "We maintain order through cooperation rather than control," Elena replied. "Each species keeps its independence while working together for mutual benefit." "Impossible," said the arachnid representative, clicking his mandibles. "Someone must be in charge. Someone must make the hard decisions." Elena smiled. "Why?" The question hung in the air. It was so simple, yet none of the council ambassadors could answer it immediately. For 1,000 years, they had assumed that hierarchy was necessary. They had never considered alternatives. "Because conflict is inevitable," Vextar said finally. "Species have different needs, different goals. Without authority to resolve disputes, there would be war." Creasy said. "Vextar." Vexy said. "You are right that conflict happens," Elena agreed. "But war is not the only way to resolve disputes. We prefer negotiation, compromise, and creative problem solving." "And if negotiation fails?" Then we accept that some problems cannot be solved immediately. We agree to disagree and try again later, when circumstances change or new ideas emerge. The Etherian ambassador pulsed confused colors. But what about criminals? What about species that break agreements? What about threats to galactic peace? We deal with them together, Elena said simply. When the Saurian collective tried to raid Delton's colonies, 17 Alliance species responded. The raiders faced overwhelming opposition and quickly decided that easier targets existed elsewhere. You used military force? We used the threat of military force. Sometimes that is necessary. But we used it to protect our friends, not to dominate them. Vextar was beginning to understand. The humans had built something new, something that did not fit the old patterns of galactic politics. Instead of ruling through fear, they ruled through friendship. Instead of demanding submission, they offered partnership. It should not have worked. Yet the evidence was all around them. The alliance was growing stronger, while the council grew weaker. What do you want from us? He asked bluntly. Elena leaned back in her chair. Nothing. Nothing? We want nothing from the council, she confirmed. We have everything we need. Our alliance provides resources, technology, trade partners, and mutual defense. We are completely self-sufficient. The words hit Vextar like physical blows. For 1,000 years, the council's power had come from being needed. They controlled trade routes, regulated technology, provided security. If the humans needed nothing, what leverage did the council have? But you invited us here, said the Sonari ambassador. Yes, because while we want nothing from you, we thought you might want something from us. Elena activated a holographic display. It showed the current galactic political map. Council space had shrunk dramatically. Nearly half the galaxy now belonged to the Free Worlds Alliance, or independent systems under human protection. Your empire is collapsing, Elena said matter-of-factly. Species are leaving the council faster than ever before. Your military cannot project power beyond your core systems. Your authority exists only where other options do not. She was right. And they all knew it. The council was dying. We could destroy you, said the Kron ambassador angrily. Elena nodded. You could try. Some of our analysts think you might succeed, though it would cost you dearly. But what would that accomplish? Destroying us will not bring back your lost members. It will not restore your economy. It will not rebuild your authority. It would send a message, the Arachnid representative said. Yes, it would tell the galaxy that the Council responds to challenges with violence. It would prove that you see other species as enemies to be destroyed rather than potential friends to work with. Elena paused. Is that really the message you want to send? Vextar thought about his ancestors, who had built the Council through conquest and fear. They had been strong, but their strength had created enemies. Now those enemies were offering friendship instead of demanding revenge. What do you propose? He asked quietly. Elena smiled. A new beginning. The Council could become a partner in the Alliance, rather than an opponent. Your species have knowledge and experience that could benefit everyone. Your worlds could trade freely with Alliance members. Your people could travel safely throughout Alliance space. And in return, you stop trying to control other species. You respect their independence. You treat them as equals rather than subjects. That would mean the end of the Council as it exists now. Yes, Elena said without hesitation. It would mean the beginning of something better. Vextar looked around the table at his fellow ambassadors. He could see fear in their eyes, but also hope. They were all tired of the endless struggle to maintain control. They were all curious about what the galaxy might become if they let go of their need to dominate it. You would have us give up everything our ancestors built? I would have you build something your descendants will be proud of, Elena replied. The room fell silent. Outside the windows, ships from dozens of species moved through space in peaceful cooperation. Below them, a human world hosted beings from across the galaxy as honored guests rather than conquered subjects. It was beautiful. It was impossible. It was the future. We will need time to consider this, Vextar said finally. Elena nodded. Of course. Take all the time you need. The Alliance will be here when you decide. She stood up, and the others followed. In the meantime, you are welcome to tour our facilities, meet our people, see how we live. I think you will find it interesting. As they filed out of the conference room, Vextar caught Elena's arm gently. Why? He asked. Why offer us this chance? We tried to enslave your species. We threatened to destroy you. Why help us now? Elena looked out at the stars beyond the station's windows. Because someone once told me that the strongest response to cruelty is kindness. Because we believe that former enemies can become future friends. Because we think the galaxy is big enough for all of us. She turned to face him. And because when someone laughs at you for walking away with dignity, the best revenge is proving that walking away was the right choice. Vextar understood. The Council had laughed when humanity left. They thought they were watching another species break under the pressure of galactic politics. Instead, they had watched the birth of a new kind of civilization. One based on cooperation instead of control, respect instead of fear, partnership instead of domination. The Council had been wrong about everything. But it was not too late to learn. As Vextar walked through the station's corridors, watching humans and aliens work side by side as equals, he began to imagine what the galaxy could become. It would require humility from the proud Council species. It would require admitting that their 1,000 years of dominance had been built on fear rather than wisdom. But it would also offer something they had never experienced, the chance to be part of something greater than themselves. The age of the Council was ending. The age of the Alliance was beginning. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy's future looked brighter than its past.